Hi, I'm Peter Spielvogel from SAP UX Engineering. Welcome to our session at TechEd 2021. I'm joined by my colleague, Stefanie.
And I'm Stefanie Hager, also from UX Engineering, and we are going to show you how to build timeless and low-maintenance SAP Fiori apps faster than ever today.
In this session, we'll show the low-code approach that we use internally to build apps for SAP S/4HANA. Customers also benefit from this approach, as Cristin from Canadian Blood Services will show. First, we'll explain what Fiori Elements is, how it works, and its technical underpinnings. Then we'll show you how to go beyond the standard applications and extend your apps. We'll end with a review of the business benefits and provide some resources for you to learn more and test it yourself. Before we go into details, I want to show you how SAP Fiori Elements fits into the bigger picture of the intelligent enterprise. As part of SAP product engineering, we're focused on building solutions that allow you to become an intelligent enterprise. For an enterprise to run intelligently, it must run integrated end-to-end business processes powered by data with SAP S/4HANA at the core. All the business processes you run must offer a seamless user experience that puts the end user at the center. And you need the ability to write your own apps to meet your unique needs. In this session, we'll describe how SAP Fiori Elements and SAP Fiori tools will help you build apps that can accelerate your journey to become an intelligent enterprise. Since it's TechEd, I'll start with a demo.
You can see at my Fiori Launchpad, and when I click on Procurement Overview, it takes me to an overview page with lots of information related to various dimensions of procurement. When I click on that card for Monitor Purchase Contracts, it takes me to a list report where I can see a list of various contracts. I can use a filter bar, which is standard functionality in Fiori Elements, to filter that down and see, again, a list of items. When I click on one of these objects, it takes me to an object page, which is a place to see details about any of these objects. As I scroll through, you'll notice I've got a header and some navigation items there. And as I scroll through, you'll notice that that changes as I go. Information can appear in different forms in an object page, including graphics. And I can use this navigation to jump to the top, navigate back to my list report, change my filter criteria, or go back to my overview page and look at more information.
Now that you've seen some SAP S/4HANA apps that use Fiori Elements, let's discuss what it is. In a nutshell, Fiori Elements is a UI development framework built on top of SAP UI5. The main idea behind SAP Fiori Elements is that the content of the screen is generated at runtime based on metadata coming from the back end. This means you need to write very little, if any, front-end code for standard apps. If the standard floor plans are not exactly what you need, we provide flexibility to change behaviors or introduce additional controls. We'll talk more about extending apps later in the session. Apps you build with Fiori Elements are responsive, which means they adjust automatically to the screen size. Of course, not every app will be a good fit for smartphones, but the fact that you can write one app and run it anywhere is pretty cool. One of the biggest benefits of Fiori Elements is that it's included with the SAP UI5 license, so there's no additional charge to use it. Since SAP Fiori Elements is built using SAP UI5, it delivers several main advantages. SAP UI5 is an open technology leveraging the latest web standards. It provides all the UI elements you need to provide a consistent Fiori experience. To simplify the development process, SAP Business Application Studio includes SAP Fiori tools for building both SAP UI5 Freestyle and Fiori Elements apps. UI web components and integration cards let you deliver the Fiori experience on non-SAP UI5 technology stacks. The combination of SAP UI5 and Fiori Elements gives your apps common enterprise features which are typically expensive to develop yourself. For example, accessibility, internationalization, mobile compatibility, and security are built into Fiori elements. In addition, Fiori elements provides UI logic out of the box. There's simple logic, such as navigating between pages and between apps, and searching, sorting, and filtering capabilities for lists. It also includes more complex functionality, such as draft or variant management. You saw some of these items during the demo. Now that you have an overview of what Fiori Elements is, let me explain at a high level how it works. The most important thing to know about Fiori Elements is that it generates the application you see at runtime by combining three fundamental building blocks: OData services, OData annotations, and the Fiori Elements floor plans. The data from the backend is exposed as an OData service, which is an industry standard way of querying and updating data. SAP provides many OData services with SAP S/4HANA, or you can write your own. Developers use annotations, which are a form of metadata, to specify what you see on the screen and in what format. I'll give some examples of annotations next. SAP Fiori Elements then takes this information and displays it in one of the standard floor plans. Thus, the framework covers how your content is displayed. You no longer need to write code for the UI with JavaScript, so as an application developer, you can focus completely on the business functionality. OData allows you to annotate metadata with semantic information that describes exactly how the data is to be interpreted. For example, you can use annotations to specify that two fields are an amount and the associated currency, or that a string is not just a collection of characters, but really an email address. Based on the annotation, the Fiori Elements framework will render the field according to the Fiori design standard. Annotations can also define behavior, such as whether a business object is editable or not, or it can give consumption hints to show if a field is clickable. Now, let me turn it over to Cristin from Canadian Blood Services, who will discuss how the Fiori Elements floor plans accelerate development, and she'll also show some examples of apps that she's built.
Thank you, Peter. One of the biggest advantages of starting with a standard floor plan is the boost to developer productivity. Most scenarios in the enterprise involve a variation of providing an overview of business relevant data, various types of lists of this data, and managing the data. The SAP Fiori Elements floor plans were developed to cover the majority of these use cases in the ERP context. SAP Fiori Elements provides 5 distinct floor plans. The overview page provides an overview of the data for a certain business area or role. It's a jumping off point to provide business critical information and navigation to other floor plans to find more information. An example of an overview page is the Quality Engineer overview page. On this page, the user may find information on outstanding inspections to be performed, quality notifications or malfunctions requiring attention, quality issues or tasks to be completed. Another overview page example is the Sales overview page. On this page, the user may find information on outstanding sales orders, backordered items, or customer returns. The List report page provides a list of a large set of items in list format. It offers filtering and sorting capabilities to manage the list, as well as drill down capabilities to provide more information on single items. The List report page has 2 flavors. The Analytical List report allows the user to interact with charts and visualizations on the data. And the Work List page can allow the user to interact with tasks to be completed. Finally, the Object page. This page offers more detailed information from items found on the List report page. You saw examples of some of these floor plans in the previous demos. At Canadian Blood Services, Our Materials and Services Quality Information Listing Report leverages the SAP Fiori Elements Floor Plan, List Report, and Object Page. This report includes a large set of items with information about materials and services from a quality perspective. It includes information about materials and services, such as the material number and description, and includes information about inspection expectations and quality ratings. Because the data set is so large in this report, the filtering and sorting capabilities of the list report are extremely important for the user to filter and find the information they require quickly. The use of the flexible column layout allows the users to navigate to access the object page for a single item in a single window, simplifying the navigation from material to material within the report. While the object page currently contains the same information as the list report itself, using the native SAP Fiori Elements floor plan readies our organization to continue growing this application to include future objects including quality information records and vendor information for materials. One of the great advantages of moving this report from a traditional GUI transaction to an SAP Fiori Elements app is the information contained within it is equally important to the frequent and infrequent SAP user. The infrequent SAP user may never log into SAP using the traditional GUI, and further may not even know the information in the report is coming from SAP itself. However, these users are already familiar with the UX and the navigation of Fiori apps from their interaction with our Fiori Launchpad and our Employee Direct Access portal. Of note, the development of this app was done in tandem by an ABAP developer who worked on the back-end services and OData, as well as the business logic, and an SAP business analyst who developed the front-end report and user experience. The efficiency of this approach streamlined the development time because it allowed each of the resources to focus on their own areas of strength. We've talked about the development efficiencies the SAP Fiori Elements template and metadata-driven approach to app creation brings to the table by allowing focus on business logic and back-end services. We've also talked about how SAP UI5 and SAP Fiori Elements apps are automatically enterprise-ready, ensuring high-quality, stable, and optimized UI code. Let's talk about the importance of UX consistency, the heart of a great user experience. There are numerous business benefits to having a consistent UX. Increased adoption of your app. A great UX means people will use and love your app, and there's nothing worse than building an app and having no one use it. Improved business user productivity. Knowing where to find the information on the screen and how to navigate through the app will make your users more productive. Decreased training time. It promotes a rapid learning curve for users as they already know where to click and how the menus work. Improved data quality. Simple and consistent screens means that people will make fewer errors and the data in the system will be cleaner. Enhanced user satisfaction. The sum of all these measurable benefits means that the users will be happier using the apps that you build. Because we as customers are able to leverage the same tools to build custom apps as the SAP developers use to develop standard apps, the user experience consistency is assured. Now, Stefanie will talk about more ways to make developing apps even easier.
Thank you, Cristin. I will now briefly introduce SAP Fiori tools, which we use also internally to build apps for S/4HANA, and then show it in action. SAP Fiori tools includes the application generator, which generates the app and provides a consistent project structure. The application modeler, which visualizes the page structure and provides configuration options like what layout to apply, or which table type to use. And we continue to enhance its no-code capabilities, which now allow us, for example, to rearrange fields on the screen using drag and drop. The service modeler visualizes the service entities and annotations, and our comprehensive code completion module features also micro snippets, quick fix actions, and more. Guided development provides wizards to walk users through the implementation of important features. The guides automatically generate and insert the required code snippets based on the parameters set by the users. Now, the use case that I will demo is to create an app to manage travel plans. And in this demo, I want to highlight how the app generator creates a fully running app in just a few minutes, that you can configure the app layout with only a few clicks, and how to use our wizard-style development guides. I already have my backend business logic available in a local project, which is based on SAP Cloud Application Programming Model, in short CAP. This project includes an OData service and relevant UI annotations. I will now generate an SAP Fiori Elements list report object page app based on this OData service. For this, I start the SAP Fiori Tools application generator using the command palette. The first step is to select the right floor plan, so in my case, list report object page. Next, I choose the data source, here my local CAP project, and pick the travel service. I need to specify the main entity that I want the app to use, that's the travel entity, and can optionally specify a navigation target in case I want a sub-object page, which I do in this case. The wizard requires me to enter a few project parameters, and now it generates the project. I can start the preview of the app using the right mouse context menu. The generated app consists of 3 pages: a list report to manage the travels, and an object page per travel, and a sub-object page per booking in the travel. This already looks pretty good, but there's still a few things I don't like about my app yet. First of all, I want to see both the list and the item details in one browser window. So let's make that happen. For this, I'll go into the page map, which visualizes my app structure. I can access it via the application modeler view. And now I can change the layout settings to flexible column layout, pick the layout I like, apply. Auto refresh is running, and now the split screen mode is on. Also, I'm not so happy about the order of some of the fields in my travel form here. I want the customer to be the first field. So let's make that happen as well. I go back to the application modeler view and enter the page editor for the object page. Here I find the travel section. And I can simply grab the customer field and drag and drop it to the first position in the form. And again, my app is updated, so the customer is now the first field. However, not every UI enhancement is possible via configuration. We also offer complementary support through step-by-step instructions in our guided development module. And guided development also features more comprehensive explanations and links to relevant documentation. Now, I already have semantic coloring in place for the travel status. But this is a bit too subtle, especially in the split screen mode. I want the entire line to be semantically highlighted. For this, I open the guided development module. I search for highlight and find the appropriate guide. The guide opens and gives me at a glance what I can do with it, including a screenshot. Then I start the guide. I only need to provide a few parameters, and it generates the corresponding annotation for me. When I click on Insert Snippet, The annotations are inserted in the correct annotation file. And my app is updated with semantic highlighting per line in my list report. I hope this gave you a first good impression on how easy it can be to create SAP Fiori apps. While SAP Fiori Elements provides a large set of UI patterns and features, it cannot provide every kind of behavior and design as a built-in feature. But fortunately, you can extend an SAP Fiori Elements app with custom artifacts. There are quite a few custom artifacts that you can use for extending your app, including, for instance, custom fields in a form or as a table column, custom actions, sections, or even custom pages. And these custom artifacts can be added using clearly defined extension points. Custom artifacts give you greater flexibility, but they also mean you sacrifice some of the saving in development and maintenance cost, which you normally get from Fiori Elements. Because you own the code of the extensions, you need to ensure not only functional correctness, but also user experience consistency and product standard compliance. Now, having cautioned you about the cost of extending your app, I also want to talk about what we're giving you to make it easier to create and maintain these custom artifacts. In principle, you can use any SAP UI5 control within an extension. However, if you can, we recommend using building blocks. Building blocks can be, for example, tables with a table toolbar, which is then again fully orchestrated by the SAP Fiori Elements runtime, and thus also benefits from its capabilities like side effect handling or edit flow. But still, you can integrate it into your custom section or page in any way that you would like. And of course, you're not limited to adding various controls to the UI. You can also add custom logic at certain hooks. For example, whenever the user attempts to save a document, these hooks are specified in our extension API. Now, enough slides. Let's see the building blocks in action. This is my app as I had built it in the previous demo. Let's enhance the travel object page and include information on the total bookings per airline of the primary customer of this travel plan. I want this information at a glance, so next to the booking table rather than underneath. With building blocks and the SAP Fiori Tools application modeler, this is pretty easy. I'm back in the page editor of my travel object page. First, I delete the current booking section, so that'll delete the table with the bookings. Next, I add a custom section. An almost empty fragment has been generated. And this is now visible in my object page. Now let's create the content of my custom section using building blocks. I have prepared a code snippet for this. And it contains a message strip, a grid with 2 building blocks, the chart and the table. And with just these 20 odd lines of code, I now have a custom section in my app. And even better, the content of this custom section is still managed by my SAP Fiori Elements framework, which means that, for instance, I get standard UI functionality like edit capabilities for free. As well as side effects. Note the total price is 7,000 odd US dollars. Now, when I go and change the price of an individual booking, let's boost this one by 1,000 euros. The total price is automatically updated. So much for a quick glimpse on how building blocks can make it easier to adapt SAP Fiori Elements apps to your specific needs. So while we talk today about SAP Fiori Elements, it's not a universal solution for every development scenario. As we mentioned, it covers around 80% of the scenarios that we see in SAP S/4HANA. If your app doesn't fit at all to one of our templates, let's say you're creating an app based on a calendar, You should probably build it using SAP UI5 Freestyle. Then you will be fully responsible for the UI development, but you also have complete flexibility with your designs. To sum it up, SAP Fiori Elements prioritizes efficiency over flexibility. It significantly lowers the total cost of development and that of maintenance, but it cannot cover each and every design. Now, Peter will summarize and point you to additional learning resources.
Thanks, Stefanie. We've covered lots of material so far, so let me bring it all together. There are three main themes we'd like you to remember from this presentation. First, SAP Fiori Elements and SAP Fiori tools greatly accelerate and simplify app development. Second, the SAP Fiori Elements framework enforces UX consistency. Every app you build using Fiori Elements will look and behave the same. Users will require much less training as all their controls are in the same place, whether they're purchasing materials, looking up a catalog entry, or requesting time off. Finally, we found that about 80% of the apps we create at SAP can use the SAP Fiori Elements framework. We encourage you to look at these two solutions as you plan your UX transformation and figure out how to build more Fiori apps to meet your organization's unique needs. Here are some resources that will help you along your journey. I highly recommend you take the new Open SAP course, Developing and Extending SAP Fiori Apps. This class covers everything from this session and much, much more. It is the best way to gain expertise on Fiori Elements and Fiori tools, and there's lots of exercises where you can practice your learning. The other sites listed on this page provide information about the various solutions, and you can also learn from the SAP community and interact with our experts. If you want to always find out what's new, sign up for our bi-monthly newsletter. There are many great UX sessions at TechEd. I'd encourage you to check out the one on Channel 1 from Vijay and Richard from the US Department of the Interior. They talk about how they use the combination of SAP Fiori Elements, SAP Fiori tools, and SAP screen personas to provide a coherent user experience to their users. Also, if you want to build an app using the tools, Fiori Elements and Fiori tools that we learned about today, please join us for our hands-on session, IIS 160. You can use what you learn at TechEd to boost your career. Please review this slide in more detail to learn about many valuable ways you can continue your learning experience. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you learned something interesting about SAP Fiori Elements and SAP Fiori tools.